Welcome to CCN Midday News. I'm your host, Captivating Christian, and here's some of your top stories for today, the 18th of June. Texas police say a black teen found hung outside of school. A 10-year-old found safe a day after vanishing in West Houston. Fired police officer who shot Rayshard Brooks dead begged the father of four to stay alive as he desperately administered CPR. Bodycam reveals. U.S. fighter jets intercepted 8 Russian warplanes near Alaska, the 4th time in a week. Representative Matt Gaetz shouted down Democratic Representative Cedric Richmond, "Who the hell do you think you are?" White Lives Matter is spray painted on Arthur Ashe's memorial. And second stimulus and extended unemployment benefits? Here's what aid could be on its way. Let's get to the news. Authorities in Texas say that a black teen male was found hung in the parking lot area of a school on Tuesday, according to a statement from the Harris County Sheriff's Office, which covers Houston and the surrounding cities. Security video, witnesses, and other evidence appears to suggest that the male hung himself. There are currently no signs of foul play. Cause of death is pending the autopsy. No further details were available. The news comes just as one day after separate incidences in which men were found hung outside of a store in Houston in what police say was likely a suicide. 2 other black men were found hung in the recent weeks in Southern California, prompting calls for further investigation after authorities initially deemed both deaths suicides. Okay, so let's quickly get into some commentary on this first unfortunate story of yet again another hanging classified as a suicide, this time in Houston, Texas, by a school. I really just think the FBI needs to investigate these things to confirm that these are suicides. With this state of unrest, as I said just yesterday, and just the atmosphere the country is at right now, I just don't feel like calling it a suicide and, case closed is it. I think some investigation needs to be done. It's just too much. It really is just too much. And I hope we get to the bottom of it. I really do. It's just really sad. A day after searching, police say a 10-year-old boy has been found. Lawrence Menard was reported missing about 8 a.m. on Wednesday. He had been last seen about 10:30 p.m. at the 2777 Woodland Park Drive. Shortly after 5 p.m. on Wednesday, Houston police confirmed Lawrence had been found, but they provided no further details. I am happy that the young man is safe, that he was found, that no hurt, harm, or danger came upon him. That is definitely some good news. There's no details as where did the boy go, or if he did go with anyone, or if he just wandered off on his own. There are no details as of yet, but the story is that the young man was found alive and well. So, thank God for that blessing, and just keep a watchful eye on your children. At this day and age, when we were younger, we could kind of roam a little bit and not be so worried about surroundings, although we were very aware of strangers or someone following you. You do this, go that way, do this. But we need to be very mindful this day and age of who we surround our children with and what we allow our children to interact with this age of technology too. We need to make sure that we are keeping tabs on our children, GPS wise or anything of that nature, anything that can get you a closer connection to you knowing where your child is at all times, I think is a good idea. So like I said, glad that the young man is safe, and hopefully this brings closure to the family and they can they can heal from this, because I'm sure the mother and father and grandparents, so on and so forth, were pretty devastated, in fact thinking that they lost their child. So it's good news. The police officer who shot dead Rayshard Brooks begged for the father of 4 to live as he desperately administered CPR to a dying man. The Daily Mail reports that the former officer, Gaetz Rolfe, age 25, shot Brooks twice in the back on Friday, June 12th, when a peaceable call-out suddenly escalated into unspeakable violence. Rolfe's body cam came off during the violent altercation that erupted when he tried to cuff Brooks and tell him he'd had too much to drink to be driving. Amidst angry shouts and accusations by bystanders, Rolfe can clearly be heard pleading with Mr. Brooks to keep breathing for me. The jerk body cam footage captured him kneeling on the ground and administering CPR to a bleeding man while Bozeman looked on. Rolfe administered CPR until the ambulance arrived and can be heard repeatedly calling Mr. Brooks' name as he tried to keep him alive. I just have some brief commentary for this. So yet again, some more video footage comes out about the last moments of Rayshard Brooks after the police officer shot him in the back. The police officer then, begged him to keep breathing and administered CPR, of course to no avail, because unfortunately that young man had succumbed to his injuries and died. But my issue is there's no need to beg, somebody to stay with you and stay breathing and stay alive, because there was no need to escalate that situation as far as it got. I don't know. It's almost like an authoritarian kind of issue or some kind of Napoleon complex that some people in authoritative role have, that if you don't answer them a certain way, or if they don't like your response or your posture when you're talking to them, then that's a problem, and they will then administer some kind of force for you to comply. I don't know. To me, in a sense, it's like garnering sympathy. Like, oh, he was remorseful after he did it because, look, he tried to save his life. Yeah, that's all well and dandy. But at the end of the day, it didn't even have to go that far. You could have parked the man's car, had the man park his car, and have him walk. I just didn't understand the level and wanting to arrest the man because he had been drinking, as if drinking is against the law. The only part that's illegal in that is getting behind the wheel of a vehicle. Okay, if the vehicle is parked and you either take him where he needs to go or he walks home. End of story. Like, I really didn't understand the point of that. But I guess from, all of the heightened tension due to George Floyd and some people just feeling overly stressed. But again, that's your job. This is what you do. That's your nature of your job. So if you can't handle the stress of the job, then why are you in it? I don't know. Again, it's just my thoughts. Please share down below your thoughts. I'll be interested to know what you think. On to the next story. U.S. Air Force F-22 fighter jets were scrambling to intercept Russian bombers flying near Alaska 2 separate times late Tuesday night, marking the third and fourth intercept in a single week. The NORAD F-22 Raptor, supported by the KC-135 and the E-3 airborne warning and control system, successfully completed 2 interceptions of Russian bomber aircraft's formation entering the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone last night. The North American Aerospace Defense Commander of NORAD said in a tweet on Wednesday morning. The U.S. has intercepted Russian warplanes 8 times so far in 2020, with the last 4 of them occurring in the past week alone, indicating a significant increase in Russian air activity near the U.S. Okay, how about let's get into this commentary. So, to me, basically, I just feel like Russia is showing the rest of us how much by the balls he has the president of the United States. This is not the first time, nor the second time, nor the third time that Russia has been flying close to the border of Alaska. This is actually the 4th time, because it was 2 intercepts in that previous one, and I know it was one before that I talked about some months back. It was a warship, actually, an aircraft carrier, a Russian aircraft carrier that was close to the border of Alaska. And I think they're toying with him. They know that they have him. They know that they have information on him. They know what they did to help him get elected in the first place. And if he applies pressure to them, they will expose him, and he knows that. So that's why, we sit here and we talk about all this other stuff, and yet you have Russian planes flying at our borders and no one's talking about it. Yeah, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. But of course, we're not going to talk about it because it sounds too much like right. Of course, they would be doing something like this because they can do it, because they have, they have their puppet. So I don't know. This will be interesting to see how this develops. Or are they going to attack Alaska just so we stop talking about all this and helps him get reelected for a second term? That's a possibility too. So, you never know with these things. So just keep your eyes open. House Judiciary Committee hearing on police reform flew off the rails when Florida Representative Matt Gaetz and Louisiana Representative Cedric Richmond had a shouting match. After Richmond discussed the injustice that black people like him and his son face, Gaetz interjected and asked, "Are you suggesting that you're certain none of us have non-white children because you reflect on your black son and you said none of us could understand?" Richmond cut Gaetz off, saying, "I'm not about to get sidetracked about the color of our children. We're talking about black people in the streets that are getting killed. And if one of them happens to be your kid, I'm concerned about him too. And clearly, I'm more concerned about him than you are. So let's be clear about that." "You're claiming you have more concern for my family than I do," Gaetz yelled back. "Who in the hell do you think you are? This is outrageous."
Or the 65 Voting Rights Act, where 126 people voted against a Civil Rights Act, 85 people against a Voting Rights Act, because they had all these side issues. Either man up and say you don't believe in it, or let's talk about the real issue. And yes, we're not interested in watered down version of this bill. I'm not interested in equality with all deliberate speed. This is a crisis. People are losing their lives. So if we have other things that we want to fix, then fix them in another bill, fix them at another time. But people are dying as we talk. So I am not interested in moving at a snail's pace. I am not interested in a watered down bill that mandates nothing. I'm not interested in studying Antifa. I'm not even interested in studying the Klan or sovereign citizens right now, because that is not the imminent threat that black men face on a daily basis. And right now, too often, it is law enforcement, those who were sworn to protect and to serve. And so all we're asking today is to deal with that. I don't mind dealing with other pieces of legislation. I don't mind dealing with other issues that you all may have. And what I don't want to leave this conversation with, and why I'm speaking now instead of later, is because I don't want you all to leave here saying, well, we didn't know. We didn't know that's how you felt, Cedric. I want it to be crystal clear, and I will give you the benefit of the doubt that it is an unconscious bias that I'm hearing, because at worst it's conscious bias, and that I would hate to assume from any of the people on the other side.
Will the gentleman yield?
Sure.
I appreciate your passion. Are you suggesting that you're certain that none of us have non-white children? Because you reflected on your black son and you said none of us could understand.
Matt, stop. I'm not about to get sidetracked about the color of our children. We're talking about black kids. I reclaimed my time.
You said that.
I reclaimed my time. I know.
You want the discussion?
I know that
Gentleman reclaimed his time.
I said I reclaimed my time. I already know that there are people on the other side that have black grandchildren. It is not about the color of your kids. It is about black males, black people in the streets that are getting killed. And if one of them happens to be your kid, I'm concerned about him too. And clearly I'm more concerned about him than you are. So let's be clear about that.
You're claiming you're more concerned for my family than I do? Who in the hell do you think you are?
If the shoe fits.
You don't know how much we care about our families.
Kick dog holler.
You should take those words down. I know you care about your family and love your family.
The gentleman will suspend. The gentleman will suspend. The time belongs to the gentleman from Louisiana.
Cedric, would you yield?
Was that a nerve?
Yeah, you damn
I yield
right
to the gentleman from Louisiana.
I say this honestly. I appreciate you yielding. You are my good friend, and we hail from the same state, and I respect you, and I love you. And I say this honestly. If all that you said is true, and I believe it is, then why didn't the Democrats allow us to assist with this? Why draft a bill in the dark of night in a back room somewhere and then present it to us whole cloth? If you really wanted us to work together, and we want to, why not give us that opportunity? Do you have an answer for that?
You know, I do have an answer for that. Because you all were in charge for a while. We've been in charge for a while. I have been singing the same song since 1991. People on the streets right now are demanding action right now. We saw what was just presented in the Senate. It was a watered down bill, and right now this is a national crisis. And we don't want to move with all deliberate speed. So those ideas that are good, we are willing to meet and to talk about. And the author of the bill, Ms. Bass, Congresswoman Bass, has indicated willingness to continue to work as we go forward. But as of right now, this is a critical emergency for people in this country. And I just think that we should not debate everything from Flynn to all this other stuff. We know what we're talking about in here. Let's vote it up or down.
Time of the gentleman has expired. For what purpose does Ms. Lesko seek?
Yes, about this one. I tried to get the video clip off of C-SPAN and place it in the video, but fortunately that did not work. So it's in, as of right now, it is in my community wall. It's on my community wall rather. So if you want to see the clip, please, I implore you to watch it on the community wall. But basically, Rick Gaetz has always been a Trumper, always, you know, acting out, doing the most to carry favor with the president. And this is just more of the same BS that he likes to throw out there to avert the press that are there and taking in all that's going on to talk about him and to divert the whole conversation. So I applaud Representative Richmond for not allowing Gaetz to totally take him somewhere where everybody there knew he was not trying to go. It was as simple as you don't necessarily understand what I go through as a black man with a son myself. You have no idea, and he doesn't. I mean, as much as you trying to say we all don't have non-white children, it's not what the man was saying at all. But it's always that kind of deflect and spin this whole thing around. When the actual reality is, black men, unarmed black men at that, are being killed by law enforcement. Our children are being killed by not just law enforcement, but everyday citizens who don't like that your music is loud, who question you about where you're going in your neighborhood where your parents live. I mean, it's too much. It's a lot. And to then want to play on it and kind of change it around, I think it was disrespectful. But that's how Gaetz is. He is a complete, to me, asshole. So him and Donald Trump can go together. A statue of African-American tennis legend Arthur Ashe on Richmond, Virginia's Monument Avenue had been vandalized with the words "White Lives Matter." The photo shows the base of the monument tagged with white spray paint and the words "White Lives Matter," as well as the initials WLM. Those initials were then later painted over with Black Lives Matter, BLM. The Richmond police say that they were alerted to the vandalism about 10:15 a.m. on Wednesday. Police say that red paint on the statue itself was already being cleaned off by community members. Police also say that they have information on possible suspects and are asking for the community to call their Crime Stopper hotline if they have any information on who is responsible for the vandalism. The Arthur Ashe Monument was dedicated in 1996 to memorialize the Richmond native and the counterbalance the strings of statues of Memorial Avenue dedicated to Confederate leaders. The vandalism of Arthur Ashe's statue comes as multiple Confederate statues have been toppled, vandalized, and removed from the city during protests prompting the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Okay, so now we have white protesters painting White Lives Matter on monuments that represent or that showcase black or African American heroes, athletes, whomever. It's a huge problem. One, because of the simple argument of the whole thing. We're dealing with Confederate monuments that were put up only during the Civil Rights Movement as a slap in the face to the fight for equality, to, I guess, always know where your place is. But before then, there were none. So I don't understand this whole thing about heritage as if it's something that's been there forever. These monuments of traitors in the South were not, erected over time and, all of a sudden it's been there. Like we're talking about the Statue of Liberty or something like that. Absolutely not. So I just don't get it. And, it's like, are we doing a tit for tat now because we're taking down Confederate traitors to the United States, not even looking at it as a black and white thing, just on the simple basis, if we take out all of that, they were traitors. So why would we celebrate traitors in our country. If that was the case, we might as well put up a whole bunch of statues of a whole lot of people, and call it what it is. But I really just don't understand that. And to vandalize Arthur Ashe's monument with White Lives Matter. White lives have always mattered. That's why you can roam the streets and do whatever and talk back to the police and whatever else, and you could still go either to jail peacefully or go home peacefully, and you don't have to worry about not going home to your family alive. The U.S. economy is showing signs of healing months after Congress pumped trillions of dollars into the financial system as a backstop against the harshest downturn in decades. But experts say the long road lies ahead for the economy as its path back to normal following the effects of the coronavirus. The surprisingly strong jobs and retail sales reports for May were a welcome sign for months of hard economic data, with employers adding up to 2.5 million new positions and the unemployment rate edging down to 13.3% in the month, while receipts at restaurants and stores grew by a record 17.7%. The snapback suggests the worst from the pandemic might be over as states walk back restrictions to keep consumers at home. While many economists attribute the quicker than expected rebound in hiring and spending, the CARES Act backed aid, Congress' third fiscal care package in response to the pandemic, they say it might incentive lawmakers to shut off the aid tap, prematurely undercutting the recovery. Stimulus fatigue is at the top of the economic risk at the current time. The wide-sweeping CARES Act gave Americans $1,200 or more in a direct deposit cash, boosting unemployment benefits and establishing forgivable small business loan programs known as the Paycheck Protection Program, otherwise known as PPP, among other provisions. The pot of PPP money, a crucial source of funding for hundreds of small businesses rolled by the pandemic, had been replenished 2 times, with about $130 billion in aid untouched as of June 9th. Meanwhile, the additional $600 a week in unemployment payouts is set to expire at the end of July. The last round of stimulus checks aren't set to be distributed until December. Okay, some harsh realities here. I don't believe there'll be any kind of second stimulus. The only people that will probably get any kind of extra stimulus, even though we're on the third one, will be businesses, and they'll be big businesses, but they will disguise themselves as small business, and get these big bailouts. The Republican Senate does not want to give out any more financial help to everyday citizens. I think they think they've done enough, done too much, and they figured you're going to stay home, you're not going to want to go back to work, and you're going to want to just collect benefits that's already due to you anyway. So I don't really understand the argument, but Mitch McConnell has said that he's not looking to do a second stimulus, for the American people, but I'm sure all of his businesses and his dealings and companies he's dabbled in, and the transportation market that his wife is in, they all getting extra stimulus as well. So I don't know. This country is definitely for the wealthy few to get wealthier, and for the everyday citizen who is working to make that wealthy person more money to basically just get scraps, and there is no trickle down thing at all. But the Republicans love to gloat on that and champion Ronald Reagan for this trickle down economic thing that does not work. If you don't support the people that do the most work, you will not get you will not be able to reap the benefits of a successful business market. It just does not happen. So the more you neglect the people at the bottom, the worse it will get for you. And the rush to put all this out there so we can get back to work and ignore the coronavirus and all these other things that are going on. So your numbers don't look bad as a sitting president is all this is for. It's not even really for the protection of the people, to make sure everything's on the up and up before people go back to work and risk their lives. No, it's just to make sure you look good come November, which is a crying shame. Once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.